Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I am Sylvia Aurora Samaniego, and I am the director and the curator of Pitt's University Art Gallery, or the UAG, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this event tonight, Agua Firme, a conversation with Angie Cruz, Scherezade García, and Iliana Emilia García. I am so pleased to see so many friendly faces in this audience, so many new faces in this audience, and to see such a big audience on a Friday night in Pittsburgh. So thank you for your support. First thing I'd like to say is these three women have helped me realize a long-held dream for the gallery that I'm now the director of. It's been, since the moment I started here in 2018, I have really hoped to see the rotunda space, that central space where Agua Firme lives right now, that it might be transformed in the hands of artists. And I could think of none better than Iliana, Emilia, and Scherezade to do this work. Their installation, Agua Firme, was envisioned as a bridge between the two other exhibitions that are currently on view, Kingdom of This World Reimagined, curated by Leslie Wolfe, and our student-curated exhibition, Printing Culture Gráfica de Puerto Rico, 1958 to 63, where we have many of the student curators in the audience and the faculty who led that endeavor. Their installation was meant as a bridge for these two Caribbean exhibitions, this exploration of the colonial Caribbean, the contemporary Caribbean, and Latinx artists. But it was also envisioned as something that could transform a space to do things it wasn't intended to do. Like the rest of the gallery, the rotunda is part of our uneasy inheritance from the gallery's founder, Helen Clay Frick. And Miss Frick, as she liked to be called, her vision of the gallery was, well, let's say narrow, a little Eurocentric, very exclusionary. The rotunda, with its soaring ceilings, its Renaissance-inspired design, was really at the crux of Miss Frick's vision, both metaphorically but also physically. But in Agua Firme, the rotunda has been remade. It has been transformed through sounds and images of water. It's been rechristened, so to speak, for a new generation and a new audience. Using videos, sculptures, and poetry, the Garcías share their experiences as Dominican women, and they tell the stories of people, of places, of other histories that the space was never intended to tell. Beginning with their first week in Pittsburgh in May of last year, through the installation in September, and today, it's been an honor to witness their process and to be a part of their collaboration as sisters, as artists, as Dominicans, in the space that we walk through every day. And as Agua Firme was taking shape, as luck would have it, I was also settling into Angie Cruz's How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water. In her novel, Angie introduces us to Cara Romero, a 50-something Dominican woman laid off during the Great Recession, whose story unfolds over the course of 12 sessions with a senior workforce program employee. In Angie's hands, Cara's story breaks the bureaucratic structures, the interviews, the forms, the assessments that were meant to contain her. They were never meant to tell her story. But Cara breaks through that structure in the same way that Agua Firme has been breaking through the structure that was set by Helen Clay Frick. Not long ago, I returned to my dog-eared copy of How Not to Drown while sitting in the center of Agua Firme. It's one of the pluses you get as being the director, to sit in the middle of an installation. And I sat there and I thought, that's my dream, to hear these three voices of these three women in conversation, talking about their art, their life, their culture in this space. Tonight, that dream is realized. We have these three artists, these three Dominicanas, in conversation. But this is not just a dream from the past few months. This is actually a dream that I've had since I was a graduate student here many, many years ago, when I entered into this building and did not see myself, did not hear my culture as a Latina, as an Ecuatoriana, anywhere in these spaces. To be able to welcome them, their voices, the histories and the stories they tell, is that dream come true for me. So thank you. Thank you for your art, and thank you for being here tonight. Now, I have some business to do before I do the formal introductions of our speakers, because it really does, as many of our speakers have said in preparation today, but in their books, it does take a village. It has really taken a village to bring us all together and to make this possible, this moment, this installation, but also the path here. So please allow me a little bit of time to give thanks. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Fine Foundation, who has supported the efforts of the installation of Agua Firme, and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation that supports our work through Collecting Knowledge Pittsburgh, who has made this event tonight possible. I would also like to thank our partners at USIS, at the Center for Latin American Studies, the World History Center, and ULS, who have made it possible to put up all of our exhibitions. Thank you especially to Leslie Wolf, who is not here, but is the person who came to us first with Kingdom of this World, and that has triggered all of these exhibitions that we're seeing here. For the installation of Agua Firme, it was a trial. I think we can all, the people who were part of that, it took many, many days and many, many people, and when it came together, it came together. It was magic. But in those days leading up to the magic, I wanted to thank Clear Story Creative, Josh Ice, Sean Starr, Hal Holland, and Aaron Henderson in particular, who were very integral to the installation of this piece. And I want to thank the UAG team. It's the Department of the History of Art and Architecture, Mina Rajagopalan. A special thanks to Jennifer Jostin and Janina Lopez, who were part of the progenitors of actually bringing these two artists here. And our team, Hannah Powell, Vuk Vukovic, Carlos Rivera, Evan Zaidel, Amanda Raskowski, and all of our amazing gallery attendants whose faces I see out there and who greet everybody and bring them through our wonderful Agua Firme. I hope you all know how much I appreciate every single one of you every day. So thank you very, very much. And of course, to our three artists who are here, being with them is like being in familia, with my sisters, with my cousins, and to share them with you tonight is a dream. So on that note, let me just do some short introductions so that you can get to the great conversation. Angie Cruz asked me to say not too much about her, so I will not say more than Angie Cruz is on the faculty in the Department of English, associate professor, but I cannot say, I have to mention the books that I have loved. So she's an award-winning writer, the author of Soledad, Let It Rain Coffee, Dominicana, which changed my life, How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water. And she is also the founder and editor-in-chief of the award-winning literary journal Asterisk. So I shortened it for you, but we'll have time with Angie after this to talk in the cloister. Iliana Emilia García received her AAS from the Altos de Chabón, the School of Design, and a BFA in Communication Design from Parsons School of Design. And Iliana Emilia has been actively involved developing her art with mixed media, drawings, installations, video art, printmaking, big format paintings, and has maintained a career in fashion graphics for companies like Guess Jeans, Gap, Rocawear, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and others. We've heard lots of good stories from Iliana recently. And Scherezade García is a painter, printmaker, and installation artist whose work often explores allegories of history, migration, collective and ancestral memory, and cultural colonization and politics. She is the co-founder of the Dominican York Proyecto Gráfica and holds an AAS also from Altos de Chabón School of Design and a BFA from Parsons School of Design. She's been featured in many solo and duo exhibitions. This marks the first official collaboration between Iliana Emilia and Scherezade. They have been collaborating since they were born, but this is the first time we're making this public. So on this note, please let's welcome our wonderful guests, Angie, Iliana Emilia, and Scherezade to the table.
Wow, what a wonderful introduction. Could everyone hear me? Okay, wonderful. It's wild. I've been in Pittsburgh for 10 years, and I think this is the first event where it feels like home, strangely. Thank you to Silvia for your vision and your curatorial vision, but also imagining us together here. Thank you to the Mellon Foundation, who I think supported this, and all the undergrads and graduate students I met today.
Oh, yeah.
Wild how many of you mobilize to make this audience happen. And it makes me feel affirmed, like we're doing this work and it matters, and thank you. Very appreciative. Okay, so we've been chatting up for hours, and it's gonna feel a little bit like insider information, so please raise your hand if you get lost.
Yes.
We have a lot of energy. I've known your work like for so long, during my entire trajectory as being a writer, but I never met you. And I feel so excited and privileged to be in the same room with both of you. I thought I would start a little wild here and not start right away with the installation. How many of you saw the installation already? Oh my God, that's great. And it's gonna be there and on until 8 o'clock, so you can go and visit it right after. But I thought that to get at the heart of things, of like who you are, I thought I would ask some quick, almost rapid fire questions from not a rapid fire poem by Banu Kapils, who has this wonderful poem, 12 Questions. And I thought of, when I was looking at your work for the past few days and reading all these texts, I was thinking of these questions, and I wanted to know how you would answer them. So here we go. What are the consequences of silence?
Confusion, misunderstanding.
I would say miss stories. And will be a lack of knowledge. Yeah. The things that will be missed just because people don't talk. Even though the consequence of silence also will be, it could be very productive.
It could be what?
Productive. Because you can actually then listen.
Then you're listening.
If you have the opportunity.
If you have the opportunity. So.
Or can be brave enough to recognize there is a silence.
Yeah.
Or identify it.
So how do you know it's silence? Because you need noise to know that it's silence.
Because there is this noise that is very quiet, but you know there is a noise. It's untangible, but it's tangible.
This is very complicated. We can actually keep going.
That's exactly what we've been doing for hours. Okay. Who was responsible for the suffering of your mother?
And
you can all think about your answer too.
I think I would say us.
See, I agree. And the fact that she was always so worried about like, to make sure there was a space for us to be free.
Yeah, okay.
And to be able to be.
I think
that was my thing.
She suffered because Scherezade was a voice of justice since she was born. Scherezade got in trouble so many times.
In kindergarten.
Because she saw injustice everywhere. And I'm sure at one point she worried about me because I'm sure she thought, what is this kid that lived with a basketball? I went to study with playing basketball. My mother said, how the hell she passes this test?
I said, boom, bam, boom, bam.
I don't know, baseball or whatever. My mother said, like, and I was always like getting hurt. She gave me even a first aid kit when I was small, every vacation, every summer. She said, take, mija. Because I will get hurt.
That was your present, a first aid kit?
Yeah, every summer. Because my mother said, you know, this kid, and then I will come with my bandages all over. And my mother would say, like, how about it? No, it's good. So I'm sure she suffered the fact like this kid is going to break. No, didn't break any bones, but I'm sure she suffered us to see how we're going to survive.
How will you have you prepared for your death? I thought we start right into it.
I don't think I'm preparing for my death, but I have to think that if you find all my list of things that I have, it looks like I actually already prepared my will. You will find a list of passwords, accounts, numbers, just in case something happened to me. Like when I travel, I live in Scherezade. By the way, that list is in the drawer. Just in case. So yeah. I am not thinking preparing for my death, but I like to think that I have lists that will make life easier for people if we're not here. But I don't know.
I haven't thought about it, so I am worried now.
Every time I get on a plane, my mother says, you know where it is. You know where the papers are. Los papeles.
That's a Dominican, huh?
I don't get in the papers.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Well, I am into my passport. I don't leave my passport anywhere. I am very Dominican about that.
Yeah.
I don't travel without a passport.
Because my mother used to say to us, always have your passport. You never know if you have to flee. Yeah. We're like, wow. But that is these 1960s. You know, they were so much into this constant revolution
Yeah,
you know,
I think there was
it was something that it was there, and I think I am affected by it.
I think
I think this is a perfect segue to your installation.
I think so.
Okay, so tell us about your installation, Agua Firme. How did it come into being, like creatively?
Well, first is the opportunity, and you know, first I had to say that this has been such a wonderful project. Thank you for the opportunity. I had to say, Sylvia, you know, so wonderful. What is Sylvia? Oh, you know, so wonderful to meet you, to be able to work with you, to the vision of you and Leslie, you know, and also the team at the university. I mean, I feel like, we've been here two times, and now this is the third time, and I feel like I know this college, because it's been so welcoming, and everything is being so wonderful. I have to say thank you. First, and then how this started. First, because we had the opportunity of saying, you know, say yes when Leslie and Sylvia called us about this Rotunda project. And then we started to talk about it. But we talk about it, but not too much, because that's how we work.
Yeah, usually we talk a lot, and sometimes we have, you know, I think the fact that this is the first official collaboration is kind of funny, because that's what it's the first official, because we're always talking, and we have all these projects that, but to do a piece that was intended to be a collaboration, you know, I think it was due, because we have a lot of subjects in common. We have this, the language is, the narrative is pretty, you know, similar, but we always have different results and approach to the things. And I think that's why we actually get along so well, in the sense that I know that Scherezade is going to come with a solution that is not mine, and I come with a solution that is not hers. And like we were saying, you know, we have different perspectives to see the same problem, even though it's almost like you get a 2 for 1. But this time, I think it was the right moment. I think when we got the opportunity to do it, I think we had the perfect project already in work to do it together. So I think, you know, sometimes it has to be the right place.
And somebody from outside had to say, hey, let's do this. Because, you know, Iliana, Emilia, and I, and also my husband, William, and he's here too, we are kind of like a team. You know, one thing that we have since we were very young is like Mama and Papa were always very much into like celebrating how different we were. And I think that was very important, because it was like, you know, the things that I was very good at, my sister didn't have to be copying me. It was like, no, Iliana is good for this. So that, I think, brought very good elements for our relationship. We get along, but then we get along better, because we know we bring unique things to the relationship. You know, it's nothing about sameness, and that's what we did with each other.
Yeah, and I think we also had we were lucky to have like good role models. I mean, my father is a very visual person, that he solved everything with a sculpture, with a drawing. My mother will solve everything with music and literature, and it was funny to see how both of them complement each other. So that make it easier for if you like one. Scherezade did ballet. Have you seen me with a tutu? I don't think so. You know, it was fun, because it was fun. She does this, she does that. So it was, from the beginning, it was okay to be the person that you were. And when you grow up like that, thinking that you can, you know, doesn't make it easy in life. But you come with the confidence that, you know, something, you are who you are.
Oh, your voice is valid.
And the voice is valid, and not everybody has to be the same thing.
You know, I loved when I was seeing the installation with you, and you said, you were like, I am the voice of the collective, and Iliana's the voice of the emotion. Is that right?
Yeah,
and
we always say that.
And you kind of came into the space, and you said, okay, east, west, south, north. And if you might, this is good information, that you picked different walls to do your work. So they're different works, and they pick different directions. Could you explain a little bit, like the thinking of this and how that worked?
Well, it was like kind of like when when you understand each other, we don't even have to talk too much. It was like my sister was like, okay, I say north, I will take south, north. And Iliana said, then I take east, west. But it's because the reason. Many times I talk so much about the idea that my work has a lot of things that have to do with the Caribbean. And then the idea of the beginning of coming from the island of La Española, Haiti, Quisqueya, and then going and move to another island, and it's the island of Manhattan, is the north. So that is something that is in my work a lot. So then even though I talk a lot about the crossing of the Atlantic, to make a connection, but also the tension of the difference, Iliana decided
to do east and west. That actually has to do a lot with my use of the Dominican shirt. There is also the shirt that is actually an icon of Haiti. So I always have this relation of east-west in the La Española. And also from the old world to the new world is also east-west. So in the video, you will see that there is only one scene where it goes north-south. But most of the time, it's always moving this way.
And also, Iliana, Emilia, we also kind of like make things flow in like the same way that we talk. It's a conversation. Everything has like this idea of journey, but there is a conversation between the walls.
And I like the fact that it's also the ego opposite. I don't like things that actually, I don't like odd numbers. I like even numbers because then you break, that balance. But I think the Frotunda was like a perfect space for what we wanted to do, really, because when I went in, I was like, oh my God, this is, like I saw it completely. And then it also goes also with the work of mapping. I love mapping. We were talking about it. Scherezade actually see maps, and she create maps to get lost. Well, I am into creating maps to find a way. So I am completely very into places, distances, what happened here, what happened there. When she had to create this wall, to get from here to there, she will do this. I will count the miles straight, even in square inches if I have to. But it's a completely different process of the thinking. We get to the same place, but I need to get like this in a pattern. I will. So, but it still is mapping and is place.
And that difference is what gives the piece tension. Because the moment there is sameness, then we get tired of the conversation right away. So that's what I think is something that we use, and I think we do it because we are purposely.
I'm curious, listening to you during our meeting right before, you said that you spend a lot of your time thinking,
and walking,
and then you make really quickly, and you also make all these different medias, right? So, there's the video, but then you're painting on the video. There's the sculptural objects. There's, drawing. There's so many different ways that you approach the work, and you are working around similar themes: immigration and race, and all that spirituality. But how do you? This is like a crazy. I don't know. I use words, right? Like I'm a writer, but you're moving in all these medias. Like, when do you know what the media is? This is a weird question to ask, but I'm curious. Like, why a sculpture? Why the boat? Like, why the video? Why?
The most important thing is the concept, the narrative, the idea behind. And then, you have to let yourself go and say, okay, what's the material? And in my case, and your case too, materiality is very important. It has to be cohesive. Even the way that the layers, for example, if I talk so much, I always say, like, I can do drawing, painting, installation, whatever, but it's also about my politics of inclusion. When I talk about inclusion, I don't talk only about the many colors of my skin, or then people, different communities have to be involved. No, I also talk about the idea that I had to introduce and mix different mediums, and then when many times, I start like with drawing, or drawing is always the first language. And then from there, I start like getting into the work and realizing this need that, and then this, when it gets to be more, in the case of my videos, but my videos are also paintings and drawing. So, because I see film as paintings that move. So then all that is kind of like start giving me I get the clues for where it's going to go. And many times, the series of work have many different mediums, even though it's the same concept.
I think I always see the media like is this the physical solution to my problems. And I actually, like Scherezade, I'm actually a drawer. But I actually start first writing. And words is the one who give me the key to what the project will going to be. And then material comes basically because I always decoding stuff. How I express sadness, how I express nostalgia, how, like, for example, with the picture, the photograph that passed with the beach, the 2 chairs in the beach.
That's from the Homeland series?
That's the unknown distances.
Long distance, okay. Right
Before the Homeland. The only way for me to catch exactly those 2 chairs in a foreign land, it would have been in a photograph. I could have painted, that didn't work. I needed to get the coldness of Montauk. I needed to go to the most east part of the New York, and in a rainy day, and put the chairs in a place with the same light to create that environment. So my solution was photography. I am not a photographer. I was very clear about that. I used the media photography for that. The same way that I actually used neon when I wanted to say what would be my most, my most personal feeling that I love myself in the most public way. How did you do that? The loudest way will be to go to Las Vegas. And what is Las Vegas? Neon signs. So I did the neon sign with I love myself in red, because that will be my completely inside out. So I work that way. It's decoding how to send a message. So material is very important. I mean, like, even when I did the canoe is made with the same wood that will be used by Native Americans. It's red cedar and pine. That's wood that I will find also in the East Coast. I need to make sure that it was from a place that I knew the history of. I couldn't actually just make it from. It couldn't. I mean, so but it's also part of the narrative. It's also part of my study of the thing. How I try a lot of things. That's something else. I mean, this is just the result that I show, but there is so much that goes. But it's my solution. What will be my best solution for whatever I want to? That's me.
Scherezade, you were telling me about collage and the way collage, the collecting that there is in the video, in the installation. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. There. Okay. In the 2 little videos, you can see there is one that it feels like it's like, well, it is there. It's the airplane that is a boat, and it's because all my sculptures are like soft. The idea that I have. And it's not because I love gold, it's because gold has a meaning, and it has to do with the crossing of the Atlantic. And the whole idea of things that float is because they have to survive the crossing. And also because if I want to deflate, and I want to fold it, and I want to pinch it like life, I can manipulate it, and then that's cohesive with the concept of like something that moves and is fluid, an identity, the concept of home, all that. And then with the way that happened with the video, then you see that airplane that is a boat, and it has the Virgin on top, and it has the soldiers alone. You can see that I kind of like go on top and made that ocean that is being the witness of so much tragedy. I wanted to ornament it. You know why? Because I want to heal this tragedy. So I always want to, the same thing that Carnival comes about, the same thing that the Africans, to be able to survive so much, and the American Indians, they bring all these carnivals in New Orleans, for example. It's a way to, it's resilience. Yeah. It's to be survived. You have to need beauty. It's the only thing you can take, to survive so much sadness and tragedy. So the same way I do that, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I am against the pure anything. So the film is not enough. I had to paint over. So it makes it inclusive right there. And then the same way with the collage. What I love the collage is that the collage, because it's not, if you see, I am not pasting the collage. The collage is moving so much that also talks about how the composition of the events, yes, they affect the outcome. No 2 + 2 is 4. It's always going to be 2 + 2 is 4. But in life, the way that the collage does it, use a little touch of a twist of another composition, it will definitely change the outcome.
The same
So
with,
and
the same with words.
I want to allude to that complexity and to that possibility. And at the same time, because I don't give you an answer, I hope for utopia.
I hope for utopia too.
No, me too.
We hope for utopia.
Hope for utopia.
You know, you have you had a career in textile design, illustration, and you did corporate design, and you trained in this way. You worked in it and trained. How did that training help you in this moment of your career where you're pretty much working as
We were talking about
artists?
We were talking about that the other day.
And also, I'm going to add a question, which I always think about this a lot with writing, because I think it's getting blurrier and blurrier. The line between commercial and art, which is very politically like charged. But I'm curious how that. Yes, let's just go there.
Do you want to start?
But you know, that will be almost like what will be the relationship between design, and when I say design, commercial, and art. I always say that it's the same thing. It's just the purpose is different. I see, for example, I have been working as a graphic designer for years. I mean, for a long time. And I always see the difference between, I think like when I am actually doing design, I'm actually in touch with what is happening outside the world. I actually aware of what people like, need, and respond to. When I do my art, the purpose is completely different because to tell you the truth, I am the audience. The first audience is me. So my client is me. And I'm aware of my things, but it's a twist. But they can complement each other because it's composition. It's, I like both of them. It's just that one, I am completely controlled and I am everything. And the other one, I have to be collective. When I do design, I am in a collective where I actually am part, and I had to solve a problem, not because I like it or how I like it. It's because it has to serve others. So that's a complete relationship between me and when I'm writing or I'm actually drawing, because I am the purpose. So it's more like inside, like it's like in my studios. So,
well, I have to get a full-time job when I graduated Parsons. Because I decided that I wanted to stay in New York because I fell in love with New York. I'm still in love with New York. And the problem was that as a fine artist, there was no sense of getting a full-time job. That was like, what was that? What's that? So then, because as a work study, I work with textile design. That actually, I always say, everything brings so much richness. If you take anything like happened to you of a wonderful new layer of richness, everything is gonna be good. That's because when I remember working for textile design, I really, nobody can believe me that, but I know I don't really love color for things. And people are like, what? I can't think about Bernice, that was my boss, Bernice Mas, when I was in school. And I just said, my God, you're so good with colors. What? I just do it. Anyway, so I remember I learned so much, but I also love fabric because I understand that cloth has so much memory. Cotton, white silk, all that mapping. Mapping. And then because I have to do all that, what I start doing is like using that collaboration and like Iliana says, working for others, compromising things because you work in group, you work in collaboration, so you have to listen to everybody, and you are not your client. But then you really understand how to work in a team. So it really teaches you a lot. You really learn like thick skin. You really learn how to see things, and also you learn a lot.
No, you learn
how
a lot
people
because
see things differently.
Like for example, like I think sometimes when I see myself like trying to find the media that I'm going to use, I think I am such a graphic designer because I decode things. When you are in graphics, you say, okay, how do you do what will be this logo for an idea? The first thing, a light bulb. So but then that's actually the most obvious. Bro, how you change that light bulb? How do you make a new logo for idea without a label? So that thinking is exactly the thinking that I use when I'm actually looking, okay, how can I show this thing? The thinking, the process, the decoding is the same. So my career as one thing, everything at the same is the same thing. It's just the purpose is different. That's actually I see it. Because,
But I realized I couldn't deal with design for too long. And I left that a long time ago. Because I realized I love school.
Yeah, I know, and you're very historical too.
No,
and
and also, I also don't want to get old. And when you are working in a university, you always young.
No, and then,
because you are with people that is true.
No, but
you have all these people questioning you. You have to really pay attention to the new generation, understand what they're thinking. So you have all this provocation.
And the thing, design also gets out of date very easy.
See, completely.
First, I have to say, I've never heard anyone say that academia keeps you young.
Let me tell you.
I'm just like,
about it.
Okay.
But the thing is, you have to becoming a professor.
It's true.
You know, it's always, when you have young people, like my father does, okay, my father is 86. He doesn't go out. He's
86, but he's 45.
He's 45. He goes out every day. He has a very busy social life. His friends are my age. Because he told me, I cannot be with people my age because they are complaining about the light, the food,
the music too loud.
So he told me, I need to be with young people because they keep me young and they keep him busy with the new iPhone. So when you are with young people, listen,
younger than us.
Younger than us.
Younger than us.
No, listen, you don't know, it's a new world. And especially, this new generation that they have so much information, they have so much technology. I mean, it's just good to see them, I like them. That's why my daughter, I said, can you please explain this to me? So I hear the whole speech about this or that. I'm like, so you get in touch, you're always on top.
And I realized that was more my kind of like, my other choice. And I also, it's like the element of being social because I like to be, I can talk for a long time. I love people. It sounds a cliche, but I am a people person. I love that, but I need to be alone a lot. So then the fact that you had to go to a classroom and you had to be dealing with new students and learning new names and new stories,
and
it kind of gives me
that.
That's
something that I couldn't get from design.
So I have a question on materiality because you're talking textiles, but you're also, I read something where you were talking about the chairs when you really wanted to go and go to the artisans in DR and say, yo quiero una silla, like a chair, like a traditional chair. And they looked at you like you're crazy. Why do you want me to make you a chair like this?
And when I said I need 40, the guy was like, this woman is crazy.
Could you contextualize like the beginning of that impetus of...
Everybody knows, okay, my icon is the chair. I started working with the shape, the object of the chair for a long time. I use any chair. But in 2001, I was invited to make a piece about Haiti and Dominican Republic. And at that point, I have already brought from Dominican Republic 3 little chairs that I found in the market. They're like this size. And they only had 3. I got the 3 of them. I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do with them, but I knew that I was going to do something with them. Because, it takes a long time. It's funny. I know there's always some thinking. I said, I need those 3 things in my studio, whatever. And I made the first photograph that I did. It was 2 chairs, and they were tied together with rope. And it was in the backyard, and it was... everything was mud, but then the outside was grass. And it was almost this island. And it was how these 2 chairs, because these 2 chairs were as Haitian as Dominican. So I have this idea of something, we are actually bound by natural causes. At that point, it was not about politics, it was about natural causes. We have the same materials, we have the same craft, we have the same objects that we consider ours. And then I got very interesting about, you go to Dominican Republic, I used to go and find these chairs everywhere. So I said, I want to do something, I want to buy them. I get there is no, I ask, oh no, we don't do those things anymore. I think maybe you go to Santiago, to so-and-so, you can actually find it. But, we actually replacing the chairs, the wooden chairs, by plastic ones. I was like, what? Yeah, because, they're cheaper.
And the hurricanes?
The hurricanes come, they don't get bad. We use them for the fires. So I started having like palpitations and a heart attack. Because what I saw was, okay, there is a craft that is being destroyed. That is a silent craft, because we don't know the names of the people who make them, but people keep making it. I never found like a name of someone. So it became this search for where I can find someone who can make a Dominican chair. It took years. Until finally I found someone. And I went to meet him. You tell me go now, I have no idea what it is, because it was in the mountains. We had to stop the car and walk like a mile, and found this guy who his grandfather used to make chairs, and he wanted to know who the hell wants chairs and 40.
And why?
And why? So I have an interview with him. That is one of my projects that I have actually, because something from that interview, I started thinking about something else. And I said, well, I need this because of this and that. And then I love the story. He told me, well, I can have these chairs maybe in a month. And I say, whatever. And say how much they're going to cost. The price, I'd say yes. When you say like, oh no, maybe ask for like, what about this? No, I say yes. Because the cost of what I knew he was doing was nothing. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, but it has to be maybe 30 days or 45 days. And I say, because I have to wait for the full moon. Because, and I have this thing, video. The wood that I use, I have to cut it, but it has to be cured during the full moon outside, and I hope it doesn't rain. And he gave me this whole constellation map, and I was like, oh my God. So I love that. So then he asked me, are you sure you want the guano seating? Because I also have plastic. I was like, no. I need. He was like, because that would take longer, because I had to find the guano and. So I got my 40 chairs. Okay.
And the passport. Remember the passport.
So the thing that I had to send the chairs from Dominican Republic to New York, because I had an exhibition in Brooklyn. So I found a friend who does cargo. They got stuck in Miami for a month. I could say that my chairs have a green card. They are not going anywhere. They are not leaving the States.
They went to customs, yes.
Because they finally made it to New York, like 2 days before the installation of that piece that is the tree. But when I got them, the chair, I completely understood the custom people. It had spiders, it had spider webs. It was like a real Dominican chair that was done with whatever tree was available, cured with the full moon. But so then I started my new project. That was how much a story this story tells. That this one little chair tells. It tells me a story about the weather, the traditions. To tell me that he has to work for the full moon. How many things have to wait for the full moon to be done? The knowledge of the sky that he has.
It's
to know that
anti-capitalist.
Because
you can't mess with the moon.
But the things that the way I thought, oh my God, imagine. So you buy a chair anywhere, and then the chair tells so much, and then the seating was different from the chairs that I had from the beginning. So I said, why the seating is different? Because depends on the part of the island, the design is different. So now we have this thing. Why that seating is like that, and the one from Santiago is different, and the one from La Romana is different. So it has become, my chairs have become, actually one of my projects now is, I want to get the DNA on my chair. Because if design is European, the wood is native, the only thing that is native. But then the craft of the thing is telling me more, not only that that's the one that they saw, no, from which tribe it came from. It's from Africa. Because in the south of the United States, you find the same seating that is also different. Right. So it's giving me so much decoding the DNA of an object that is so simple, but it's getting lost. because people are just getting plastic chairs.
Yeah. No, I love this story and how it brings in climate and all the things we
No,
can.
I know, and it brings so much information about that. If I didn't ask him about it, I didn't know what it takes to make one simple chair that is partly going to end in the fire, but nobody cares about. And then I asked him, do you have anybody besides you that knows how to do it? I said, well, I have a grandson that he likes to make chairs. I was like, can you please tell him to keep doing it? But what I see is, I almost very attached to my chairs just because it's getting lost. And it's almost like, that will be my Dominicanness. I need with me will be, this is history. Longer than, actually, older than mine. Yeah. So I'm just using them as a collaboration tool. When I do the installations, I know that they have more history than me and older than me.
And it's clear from looking at the installation that, the canoe, you built that canoe, you wanted it to float, you thought about the materials. And I think about, even when you said the thing about cotton and silk, right? Like immediately I look at migration. I'm thinking movement, I'm thinking the history of the materials, like the people, right? Like, and I think that's a challenge as for us who care about all these untold stories, that it's a weight, right? So I'm curious about, do you feel the burden of the history, or do you feel free from it? Like, what is your relationship to that?
I navigate between tragedy and beauty. That's how I describe it. There is always a sadness to everything I do. I am very much into history, so that's never good news. And I always wish for utopian, like I said. So what I do, and with the sculpture, for example, like we was explaining with the collages and the fluidity, the possibility of movement. Also, if you see how the inner tubes in the installations, and even how the Virgin, the White Virgin is attached to the floating airplane, is with safety ties. The safety ties is the way that the police, the immigration police, uses to get illegal immigrants, and that's started to use those elements was to make sure everything that I do with inclusion, with migration is cohesive. So everything that is used in the installation, the way it's composed, is about accumulation, but it's also about how it's attached. So the story has to make sense. So then, because that, there is a heavy sense of tragedy, but it's a need to compose in such a way that alludes to the possibility of beauty and salvation. So I play a lot with the Christian iconography. And if you see, I put this very big Virgin, but she is completely, the entourage is all these soldiers. So obviously alluding to the idea that the Christianity, that it was the first rites of Christianity were performed in our island, in La Española. And that came not peaceful. It wasn't peaceful. So then this Christianity and this going to heaven is also very much sustained by war and violence. So, but all that is something that you have to read, because I am not going to give you the information just like that. I like to allude to that so then you can bring your own narrative. But I am giving you the clues, like a puzzle.
In an interview, you said the Virgen Maria becomes Yemaya because she can't deny Africans.
She's in exile. She's in constant exile, the poor Yemaya.
And for those of you who don't know, Yemaya is the mother goddess of the ocean in Santeria, Afro-Caribbean religion. Before we go to questions, so I have one more question. I want to ask one more question. Ferile Baez, a Dominican artist, had a show in the Warhol. Maybe some of you saw it. It happened right before pandemic. And I met with her, and she, as someone who grew up in the United States, but identifies as Dominican American, and a lot of the work that she does is about Dominican Republic, she said that she struggled with how to identify because of the art market, right? Like, and, there's Latin American art, there's African American art, there's Caribbean art, and there's US Latino art. And US Latino art is like down here. Latin American art has all the collectors. African American art has collectors. And she said, you know, if I do the Studio Museum of Harlem, I suddenly can't do El Museo del Barrio, because there's a way that she was told that you can't do both. And she said, but I belong to both.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So I'm curious, as Afro-diasporic Dominicans, like, how do you feel? You're not the generation of Ferile.
No, I
right?
am older.
You're a different generation. You're moving in it very differently, but you also were born and raised and started training there, even though you've been living here more. So I'm curious, like, how do you see yourself as US Latino art, or do you see yourself as,
You know,
where do you fit?
well, I definitely feel like US Latino, and this is something that, but it also goes with what I talk about so much, and it's about this idea of the hybridity. And that is cohesive with how I think. Is this idea of what I like to say, global, contemporary, Caribbean. You know, but then the moment I am in this land, you know, I feel that this is part of my voice, and so much of my work has to do with this continental land as well as the Caribbean. But one thing I want to say about the figures that are all brown, you see all my characters are brown. It is because another dilemma of the Caribbean and the Latina, it was the fact that we have so many colors in our skin. And I refuse to take teams. I never was good in sports because I don't care about the wall, everything. So I couldn't take a team because I felt I had this European thing that it was very close. This Africanness that was so obvious. And this American, you know, Native American that I am very proud. And all these experiences together. And so I decided that when we were a leader in school and you wanted me to be brown, the best option was given to you. It's like everything that is in that palette, you mix it, and that's brown. And that itself, it is an action of inclusion. That itself is an action of inclusion. So, and the outcome of that mixing is brown. So then that's why all my characters are brown, because I want to make sure nobody's left behind. But if I do have to take and the thing is that I am a pirate. I hate to be taking, and also taking labels, accepting labels, and thinking like, oh, I should play my career this way or that way. I want to be like James Bond, to have license to kill. You know, and I think as an artist, we have license to think differently, you know. And yes, I do feel this USA, you know, United States presence in my life, and I have so many good things that this country has given me, but it's definitely informed by that Caribbean heavy hybrid culture that I come from. You know, so I wouldn't love this if I didn't have that. So, you know, so I am a pirate.
Yeah. But that's not pirate, really. No, I was going to say, Scherezade say no labels. I hate checking boxes. When they tell you check your box, I'm thinking, seriously, man? I have actually rather not to answer, because I can do this, I can do that. I always say that I became Dominican when I moved to New York, because nobody ever asked me, where are you from in Dominican Republic? Because everybody's the same. So I actually was in college when someone said, oh, where are you from? I said, oh, Dominican Republic. And then I realized, how do you represent your country? So I said, oh my God, you know something, it cannot be merengue, baseball. No, because that's not the only thing that we do.
Really?
No. Can you believe that? No. So listen, that was no. And I always tell this story because, you know, that's when you realize, you know, that you really have to think. If you have to represent your country in 1 minute pitch, how would you do it? It is not easy if you have never have to actually answer that question. So for me, I actually, you know, it's very difficult for me not to say I am Dominicana, even though I consider myself a US Latino artist, because I have been here longer than anybody else. But everything is informed for what I was. And knowing what I am and was Dominicana, I cannot just, you know, I cannot take, not sides, but I always have to include it. Because it's so, I mean, you know something, and it's not because I want to take sides, it's because to inform in a country like this, where are you coming from? I think it's important to know your roots.
Yeah.
You know,
who you are.
and it's not because I want to be this or no. It's because knowing that you're Dominican, you're coming from the Hispaniola, just coming from the Caribbean, just coming
That's
from the
enough.
Caribbean, is that's already a sign that you are from everywhere.
Yeah.
Because we have the DNAs of, I mean, come on, everybody passed by.
But all these borders also are really false when you think about how so much of DR was supported by the U.S., right?
No, no,
So-
also. And then when you're thinking about like how diverse we are, the borders are just man-made stuff
Yeah.
that can
Constructed.
fall any
Constructed.
time. Maybe in this century, I'm sure, the borders will be different. The atlas right now keeps changing. But the people that live there doesn't mean that change because of the passport.
It's true.
So I mean, I am less Dominican because I have American passport. I don't think so.
No.
This is a technicality.
But could you dance merengue?
Oh, yeah, I'm very well. I'm very well.
And listen to me, listen to me.
No, I'm joking. I said
know.
if you could dance merengue. Wait, I
I
want to
play-
take some
I play
questions.
baseball.
You play baseball.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to ask, I don't know how many minutes we have left. But let's ask some questions. Anyone have some questions? Oh, you don't?
If you could offer one piece of advice to young creatives in our generation, or maybe more influential, what would that be?
To take charge of your career, make your own rules. That doesn't mean that you have to be against the system completely. Just to make sure you you have your values set, and be, have integrity. If you, and I want to say it very easy, if you talk the talk, walk the walk.
Thank you.
Very well.
Hello, thank you so much for this beautiful work of art that you produced. I was happy to be here for the opening, and I got to see all those chairs. And my question is related to the chairs, so I was happy that you talked a little bit about that already. But I want to ask about what's the importance of repetition to you? Because it's not only one chair, you have so many chairs, a repetition of chairs, and I think your work, because I'm part of a poetry organization, and I was thinking about this connection of poetry and arts and how you're talking about your work navigating so many different arts and how repetition is so important for poetry as well, to think about that many people think of repetition as just redundancy. Oh, there's another chair, there's another one. And the same thing with poetry, that repetition, it's so important for the art. And also thinking about our heritage. I'm from Brazil, and I see like so many connections too with Brazilian culture, and how important for the oral tradition, the repetition is so important for the oral tradition, to think about how the knowledge was passing on through our oral tradition. So I was thinking if you could talk a little bit about your connection with the repetition and poetry and oral tradition. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. A great question. I mean, one of the things that I always talk about is repetition. Because it's true, sometimes I think that I'm not going to do another chair, and then I do another chair. But I always think that the repetition gives me time to evolve. And repetition, what it does is not monotony, but it's really different thinking and different process. The way that I work always, I mean, there is paintings from 10 years ago that the chair is actually very grounded, very strong. You can actually sit on them. The chairs right now, my last paintings, they're flying and they don't have legs and they don't have arms. Why? Because the same way that we live and we change and we evolve, the chairs are also evolving because it's the process and the meaning. Repetition also brings me to oral history. The movement of the storytelling. The shares, like, I always think, like, when I talk about the years of my work, I remember that in 2001, I was thinking about a very specific thing, but in 2006, I was talking, the same chair that is actually wrapped, tied with ropes, is also the chair that is in a beach, looking completely nostalgic, because at that time, I was thinking about immigration and how difficult it is to measure the distance when you are missing someone. There is a way to measure loneliness. There is no rule to actually do that. So the chair became then nostalgic. But in the next one, the chair is actually hanging from the wall with 40 of them, because that chair is actually a little bit more political, because it talks about the relationship between Dominican Republic and Haiti. Mm-hmm. So I repeat the object because this is my language. It's almost like me writing. I use my language and keep repeating and changing it. But what it gives me is the chance to evolve and to move with the times, because the times are not, it's not a flat line. It goes like this. So the share basically is with me in my right. I hope. And it goes with tradition too. I mean, you know, I also think like for me, home is a place where I have a seat. And I think that with people,
Oh my God, that gave me goosebumps.
no. I always think like when you have a seat, you actually have a chair and you sit. Meaning, it means that at that moment, that place becomes a point in your map. Because you don't sit in a place that you're going to move. You sit in a place when you're going to have a conversation and that you're ready. We'll say, there's a before and an after to the story. But the share gives you, you know, the place. But also that share comes with memories, and that share comes with the history, and that share. So my repetition is on purpose, because that's my language. I can have to keep going. Like I said.
We have time for one or two more questions. Oh, there we go, Carlos. You got it?
Yeah. So, just a quick question about the installation Agua Firme. You see, like, you're going to have another installation in Santo Domingo. And so I was just wondering about how the work is received. How your work is received both in New York City and in Santo Domingo. Are there differences, like something that you've noticed in terms of how Dominicanos receive your work and how people in New York City think of your work?
It is different. Mm-hmm. It is different. We were having this conversation with Angie before, a little bit of that conversation. Yes, it's a different audience. Yeah, definitely. The Agua Firme also is going to have another live in Puerto Rico. With another artist we also gonna collaborate. But anyway, in Santo Domingo, yes, it's different. I think because you know, when that question of silence, well,
She came back.
there is lots of so much of the narrative that we talk about here that is actually very global, and it doesn't only touches our island, but it touches the entire Caribbean, and it touches all the continental Las Americas. So it's like really, so many times it is treated in Santo Domingo like it's kind of like, we don't want to talk about this. And I think it's out of fear. Yeah. I think it's out of like, oh my God, we have to really be truthful and kind of confront history. But I am assuming this, okay? But definitely the reactions are different. The questions are also interesting because then we can see it from another point of view. But yeah. Yeah. Different reactions. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? We have one question here. Jennifer.
I would just like to hear you tell us what Agua Firme evokes. I would just like to hear about the title Agua Firme, especially because it's going to have another life. Right,
well, it has a life now in Santo Domingo too.
Yeah, so
well, do you want to start? And then...
Well, I think when we decided that we're going to do a collaboration, it was funny. We said, Scherezade, listen to me. We had to do something with land and water.
Yeah, that's what is.
Because my work is very grounded in the fact that my chair is always in ground. But then I realized that my chair always been traveling. So I needed that idea of movement. And Scherezade had a word that says, when the sea is my land.
My exhibition.
My exhibition that I love. And it became that the sea and the water has been our ground all this time. So the only way to make water the land will be to make it firm. So it becomes Agua Firme just because that's actually our land is the movement.
And the fluidity of the concept of home.
Yeah. And the fact that, we live in constant movement.
Mm-hmm. So. And the fluidity or identity. So it's like, yeah.
So that's.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we have a round of applause for our three speakers?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who's here today. We actually invite you to continue the discussion in the cloister. We'll have a little bit of food. We'll have our speakers walking around, and you can see the artwork in the gallery. Thank you again for being here. Please come back to the University Art Gallery. It's your home as well. So thank you.
Gracias.
Ay, gracias. Thank you.